The Republicans in the Florida legislature voted overwhelmingly for a 6-week abortion ban, which will go into effect in 30 days. However, it seems overwhelming is not enough, and they actually sought to bring dissent out of the official vote. Let's go into it.
On April 1st, the Florida Supreme Court allowed abortion and marijuana to appear on the ballot in November. Also, a decision was made by the Supreme Court to allow abortion after 15 weeks to be illegal, thus triggering a 6-week ban signed into law by the DeSantis administration. Let's go.
What say you, JD?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I don't think anyone's surprised by the fact that the 15-week abortion legislation was upheld by the court. That probably seems like some public policy. The fringes on either side don't really like it, but I think probably 80% of Floridians, it's a good accommodation. And they probably should have left it there. Instead, they come back the following year and try to enact their personal policy than public policy.
Yeah, and we've discussed this on the show before, David, as well. There are very good reasons to pass uncomfortable compromises, even if you want it to be a different way, because eventually, always eventually, a public opinion will swing, and maybe even the other party takes the chamber, and then you'll get reactionary policy. Instead of our 6 week, we're gonna get 24 weeks or something. The moment that it's possible, and good compromise like 15 weeks are a good way to kind of get some of what you want instead of none of what you want, because now abortion is on the ballot
for 24 weeks.
For 24 weeks. If that were to pass, the Republicans would get even less of what they wanted, unfortunately, for them. But we'll just have to see. What interested me about the story, though, was what happened actually during the vote. JD, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I can give you a little bit more of what happened, my point of view, and these are opinions, and those of the record. But the day that the 6-week legislation was coming up, earlier in the morning, there was a Democratic amendment to go from 2 doctors to 1 in regards to health of the mother. And the representative voted in favor of that Democratic amendment. Based on there's all kinds of parts of the state that don't have easy access to OBGYNs. A lot of women realize pregnant that quickly. I mean, getting it could be a problem. Insurance things. There's all kinds of things. She voted for that Democratic amendment. They immediately came over and basically said something to the effect that you voted for that amendment. And she said, yes, I did. And that started kind of a whole downward slide that morning. Later that afternoon, after all the discussion, and there's time limits on all the things on the legislation they can go through, so they can predict fairly accurately when a vote is going to happen on any particular item. But prior to that, the speaker's chief of staff came over and said she was at a meeting in the Senate building. And then a little later on, they said, hey, you go to that now. So she did get up and over to the Senate building. There wasn't really a meeting. It wasn't a quorum for a meeting. she rushed back, anticipate of the vote coming up. But surprisingly enough, the vote had already happened. Now, she registered a no vote in Eugene, thinking she would be counted as a no, but we come to find out later that there is only one official vote, and that's at that moment. So even though there's like a notation in the record that she voted no, officially she wasn't present for the vote. She has no vote registered. No, her vote wasn't going to make a difference because they have a supermajority. It was clearly going to pass anyway. That's just punishment for not following the law.
Wow. And, it's politics, it's party politics, unfortunate. And one of my concerns about this particular decision in the legislation is the fact that the Supreme Court decided that abortion is not protected under the privacy clause. And for the Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court, to overturn a 40-year precedent and say, because abortion was not considered, was not part of the conversation 40 years ago when a particular case was in front of the Supreme Court, which allowed the decision to have an abortion to be a part of the privacy of the individual decision making, to say now that that does not apply because abortion advocates did not specifically petition the court or was a part of those hearings, those discussions, that not legislation, but that court case, that now this 6-week ban kicks in. Theoretically, it's a ban on abortion. It's a ban on women being able to exercise their health care, the freedom to decide their own health care. And that part, the privacy clause, for me, is the bigger issue that I think is missing in these conversations, regardless of what's happening in November, whether the ballot initiative passes for abortion. And the numbers so far right now, I looked at the predictive analytics, and it looks kind of iffy right now. It looks iffy. But regardless of what happens there, there's still this issue about this particular court making the decision overruling a 40-year precedent on the privacy clause. I think now everything is up for grabs as far as the privacy of the individual.
Yeah. Granted, the court does what the court does, and they try to narrow it down. They want to do what they could to make it narrowly about abortion. But regardless of what they said in this case, I'm guessing a lot of plaintiffs will still seek to push that a little bit further. And we're going to have to see, I guess, how much further the court is willing to push it. But you're absolutely right that even if we were to pass this ballot initiative, which the numbers seem iffy right now, if we were to pass it, the genie is still out of the bottle in a sense. We still don't have a Florida constitutional right to abortion, and it seems that we may have a very limited constitutional guarantee to privacy of autonomous decision making.
Correct.
And yeah, I get their point that it wasn't part of the conversation, however many years ago, but it's a huge conversation now because our privacy is constantly at risk. Federal governments, state governments, like they're trying to, they've been trying to harvest information from us, domestic spying, all of that. And then you look at the social media bill that recently came out. I mean, this will, I think, assist in the enforcement of that, because if people don't have the same levels of privacy they used to,
Well,
who knows?
well, now in this 40-year court decision, the privacy of information is still protected.
Still protected.
So the government cannot actively, for instance, sell our information, our data, or expose it intentionally for their purposes. So there is protection for privacy of information, of our individual information. However, is privacy of our own individual decision making, like who we marry. As Clarence Thomas stated after Dobbs v. Ferguson.
Jackson.
Jackson, thank you. Where did I get Ferguson from?
Plus,
Jackson.
you're thinking of Plessy v. Ferguson.
Thank you,
Really
thank
good.
you, thank you.
Yeah. Thomas made the claim in his concurrent opinion. So this was a concurrent opinion. This was not the majority. So this isn't necessarily law. But what he went after was something called substantive due process. This concept that the rights that are like plainly stated, that are more plainly stated, get higher levels of protection. It's a way of establishing a pecking order, mostly.
Hierarchy.
Yes, a hierarchy. It's a way of establishing that. And what he was going after that because the main cases, that really lean on it are civil liberties cases.
Right.
These are cases like Abergefell, cases like Loving v. Virginia,
Right.
cases like that. Not that he would mention Loving v. Virginia because he benefits from that. Everybody has their biases.
Right. But he even said that's on the table.
Yeah, he says in his mind that's on the table. Brett Kavanaugh also wrote a concurrent opinion saying that Clarence Thomas was full of crap. So we're gonna have to see. But there's a lot of conservatives I think that really do look up to Clarence Thomas. He's a legacy member of the court, has written many opinions, and may or may not accept certain levels of influence from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're absolutely right that I think on state levels, that might be worming its way into the minds of many judges, many voters, of course, business people who want to grease the gears, if you will,
Sure.
of legislation. So it is always important to look at what is the status of my rights. Am I gaining them? Am I losing them? Are they staying the same? And with privacy, progressively, we've seen this on state and federal level, we're losing it.
That's correct. JD?
Well, and I think you're going to see a challenge for this 1666, even though there's an amendment on it, it wouldn't surprise me if someone didn't file some kind of an action to start that position to get heard, just in case the amendment passes. The two of you seem to think kind of a toss-up. I don't see that around. I think that amendment is going to pass overwhelmingly. If we were starting just 15 weeks, then I would think that amendment might fail. But now that they've passed 6 weeks, which we both all agree is essentially a total ban.
Correct.
I think you're going to have a lot of pushback, and I believe that amendment passed overwhelmingly. This is a case they've left well enough alone, but they just couldn't keep their hands off of it. And now I think it's blow up on them because the result is most public don't know totally. They realize there has to be, even if they don't like the concept, even if they're religiously opposed to it. If this was my family, my daughters, we would have an opinion, but they have a support. But you have to have public policy has to be accommodating to some extent for everybody. And 6 weeks isn't. And I think you're going to have, just like you were saying initially, they're going to instead of having 15 weeks, this is going to get memorialized in the state, and they're going to end up point of potentially 24 to 26 weeks. And now they're really.
I just looking at the data, and this is just right now, and both sides of the argument have not been out there, talking to their supporters, not talking to their allies about. We're just 1 week, or barely 1 week into the decision by the Supreme Court. So the marketing campaign, the propaganda campaign has not started for either side. I still think that it's not going to meet that 60% threshold that folks on the Say Yes on 4 campaign are hoping for. I just don't think it's there. November is going to be a whole different type of political climate,
Right,
and
right.
anything can happen between now and
Yeah,
then.
and truly, and you mentioned like the propaganda campaign. What kind of messaging goes out in regards to the amendment is going to be the most important thing. It always is, because if people aren't aware, they're not going to vote either way. If
Mhm.
people are aware, well, Democrats have shown us in the 2022 midterm that abortion's a really easy issue for them to needle
Yes,
Republicans on.
that's true.
It's
That's right. That's right.
it's like their get out of jail free card almost. It's like, oh, the Republicans are at it again. Make sure to vote blue.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and I think
And that's been nationwide.
Yes.
it's been
They just
nationwide.
continue, the Republicans can't keep their hands on that issue, and they just get beat to death with it. Every time they start to make some inroads, the Democrats drag out abortion now, and they fall for the crap and just get beat up with it.
And I believe Florida is the exception sometimes. It's the outlier,
Again,
and I I've been spending a lot of time knocking on doors, going to different events like farmers markets and community events, and talking to people and not talking to people. That in itself is interesting, and just trying to get a feel as to where people are at this moment. What are we? This is April,
fourth.
uh, so about 8 months from now,
Yeah,
7 months
yeah.
from the election, and, and just trying to understand if people really are keeping track of what's happening. And believe it or not, there's the hardcore, Republicans and the Democrats who actually follow this stuff, who are the core of their parties. But then the average person, that I presume is the average person, they're like, I'm not really interested right now.
Yeah, it's been kind of the same to me because I've talked to a couple people about Amendment 2, the Right to Hunt Amendment,
Hmm.
because I have some opinions on that. And nobody I know has even heard of this. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills out here talking about Amendment 2. And again, if this is a great opportunity for those more liberal leaning voices to come out in droves, try to make an illustration that the Republicans have gone too far and that this is the solution. Now it's also going to be a test of whether or not the Republicans are going to message the issue the same way they have in the past. The God thing that they like to pull, the morally righteous, the you're a killer if you don't support it, which is what you see often. You see a
Right,
lot of those.
right.
They pull out that very very moral argument,
Hmm.
which has historically not gotten a majority. It's done well with a lot of Americans, but it hasn't captured a majority. I'm curious. What I'm curious to see is whether they'll try something new, like a new way to message it, because Republicans, if they're gonna want to get a handle on this issue, and I think they do want to get a handle on this issue,
Right.
their messaging has to get really refined compared to how it's been so far, because it is
But I
showing
don't think
itself
they
in
will.
Kansas. It didn't go well in Ohio, but maybe it'll go well here. We'll see. There'll be a lot to learn
I agree with
either
JD.
way.
You see the misinformation already on the speaker and the president's news conference Monday afternoon. And they're talking about, up to point of birth. This is misleading. Up to point of birth. About, and they're accusing the other side of running a misinformation campaign. Well, what the heck? They've already started the biggest misinformation campaign. This amendment says viability, not birth. There's a huge difference. And I think just like you were saying, when they go on and poll people, I think there's probably a group of people that are much more moderate on this issue. But when you're asking them, they're reluctant to do that. If they feel like they have to back into their religious corner or whatever and take a hard stand. But when they're in that voting booth and they pull that curtain and nobody knows how they voted, they have traditionally been much more moderate. And the numbers you put out where you think it's kind of a toss-up, I would bet most of those are making analysis between this type of an amendment in 15 weeks. Now, when the question is, do you want to go to 6 weeks even if you don't believe that's a total ban, which almost everybody does, for the amendment. Now I think those numbers change dramatically.
Yeah, I am very disappointed in the Republicans for the 6-week thing, because if they had a 15-week abortion ban, then they would have had the upper hand here in the debate about this amendment, because I think this amendment would have been pushed out even if it was just 15 weeks. I think they still would have, a lot of Democrats still would have sought to have this in because they think 15 is too low.
Right.
But
And
what they would have had a voice of moderacy. They would have had a voice of, that we're like, the Democrats are going very far. We're just trying to keep it very chill. They could have had that messaging on their side, and that is an easier thing to sell than we are hardcore on this issue. Damn it.
That's right.
And it makes it harder for them to swing at the bad parts of the Democrat stake. The Democrats are pushing it too late. The Democrats this, the Democrats that. The problem, like JD was saying, is that the Republicans can't swing at Democrats because Democrats can swing straight back.
right.
So it's kind of a lost cause.
Yep.
This is going to be an important thing to watch. A lot of national media has covered Kansas. They covered Ohio, and they're going to cover
Ohio.
here.
Yes.
This is going to be a huge deal, and it will show how much enthusiasm there really is for 6-week abortion bans, even in redder states like Florida.
Right.
And I think we're going to find out they must read that. To a large extent, garbage in their job. They don't ask the right question more polling people to some extent. So the results they get back, that kind of puts them in an echo chamber. They're hearing what they want to back. And I think it's going to blow up on them. That super majority that they got in 2022 is probably the worst thing that happened. Not just to the state of Florida, to the party, because they went so far off the rails.
Sure.
And they just I think they misinterpret. They think, oh, the governor is super popular. We got all these people. I've had them say, well, we have a mandate. Like, you don't have a mandate, people. There's not one ballot in the state of Florida that says, do you want the Republican Party to have a mandate? You simply got a majority by virtue of mathematics, winning one seat at a time. Nobody in the state of Florida has told you wants you to have control and do whatever you want. But that's how they want to analyze that. And you had 1.8 million Democrats not to vote. Largely, I think because the Democratic Party picked a horrible candidate for governor. If Nikki Fried had been their candidate, that election could have went wildly different.
Yeah, I think honestly the huge wins the Republicans have say more about the Democratic leadership than they do about the political landscape. Democrats aren't putting the right candidates in the right seats. They're not advertising and messaging the way they're supposed to. They're not managing their funds the way they're supposed to. It's a very administrative failure in nature above all else, because a lot of urban areas in Florida are not as red as many like to believe they are.
Sure, the experts.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a lot of voters personally who voted like clean red in 22 and almost felt betrayed, during the presidential cycle. They're like, what is happening? Like, when I remember someone I was talking to at a barber shop who mentioned this, like when they learned that Governor DeSantis was going to be campaigning and getting his governor's salary at the same time, oh, they were not enthused. They're like, so we're putting him to do what exactly? And even though I think the Florida Republicans like to spin it as, they're very pro DeSantis, they want this to happen, they want our tax dollars going out of our state because they love us and we love them. Well, like JD said, it's kind of an echo chamber, this assumption of popularity instead of
well. And now you've got the governor. I'm really sorry. I really do the governor campaign around the stop, essentially apologizing. Oh, remember me? I'm the governor. And the other thing that a lot of blowback is the 2023 session right after the election passed a lot of things that are crazy. When people start like hiding his travel records, changing the number of votes that have these amendments. That was completely in anticipation of the abortion coming up on the ballot. And when people start feeling this, They don't like it. The politicians they underestimate the average citizen out there and don't give them enough credit for and I really think 70% of the population should be close together. You've got the fringe team maybe on each side. Most Americans would be solidly in the middle. And when they see their legislature doing things like that, like you were saying, they feel betrayed. They don't like it. They know that they're pulling someone.
The Democrats have an opportunity to capitalize on the shortcomings of the Republicans. However, they just don't have the organizational structure or the finances to, and that may change. The finances may change because the Biden administration campaign have stated that, Florida is now in play. And I don't see that when you're 7 months out from an election. Maybe there'll be this infusion of millions of dollars to get people out there registering folks, or getting them to register for vote by mail. However, it's going to be a matter of not persuasion, but turnout, a really big
Right.
turnout effort to meet that 60% threshold. There's more Republicans than there are Democrats in the state of Florida. So you're going to have to peel away those MPAs and Republicans to meet that threshold.
Go ahead.
They really do have to poise themselves as the more moderate party on social issues like these. Because, I think a lot of this had to do with his campaign for president. Florida has taken a lot of very hardline stances on a lot of social issues.
Right.
And yeah, the Democrats do have an opportunity to poise themselves as the more moderate party that can swing, the MPAs, they can swing the independents. But if we do get that millions of dollars of infusion, that money's only as good as the people who spend it.
That's correct.
As well. And it could be a good opportunity for the Democratic leadership to redeem themselves, to show that, they can mean business.
But it has to be more than just about abortion, because the Democrats are losing Latinos. They're losing black men. They're losing Asian voters. They're not getting those numbers like they used to.
Their own backyard is being eroded.
Exactly, and that could play into a lot of issues for the Democrats in trying to meet that threshold, and their allies to meet that 60% threshold.
And two thoughts on that. Number one, current administration and party, Nikki, not the previous. She's smart. She knows what's going on. She's on the ground all the time. I think if you try to compare her to the previous state Democratic Party, I think you're making a mistake. I think you're underestimating. I don't think she'll make a lot of the mistakes that they made before. And also, I really think abortion is one of those issues where, because I've had other analysts we've talked about, they're like, the number one issue with voters crime. I'm like, yep, we're going to vote abortion. No, the number two issue is inflation. Yep, but they're going to vote abortion. And you may draw a ton of people out that may vote certain things, but they'll mostly guaranteed they will deviate on the abortion and vote their mind on it. They won't necessarily vote straight Republican, straight Democrat when it comes to that issue.
We saw it in 22. By all means, the Republicans should have swamped the midterms, but they didn't. They didn't get that Senate. Just barely missed it.
That's true.
And the abortion, and you're right, JD. People, as much as people say they care more about inflation's more nebulous. What exactly is X administration going to do so different from Y administration that inflation's going to go down 3%? I dare you to find that. I really do. Because grasp on, there's less that the people in charge can do. It relies more on the markets. But issues like abortion are very, very simple. We like to talk about how issues like these are complex. You have to work it out. People only say it's complex because they actually know most of the complexities.
Right.
They say it's complex, ironically, because it's simple.
Right.
That most Americans favor a certain amount of abortion. They like at least some, like a sum in their window.
Oh yes.
And that 6 weeks is not sufficient enough window for most people.
That's right.
It's a very simple issue.
And there was a new last section to remove incest as an exception. Now, somebody in Tallahassee got their head out of their butt enough to figure out we are not even going to let that get out public. So it got killed very quickly. But there is a sentiment in there with some of those hardline radical Republican right that want to remove rape incest as an exception. Talk about losing the public. I'm not sure how anybody else is. I've got daughters and granddaughters. That doesn't play well with me.
Right.
No,
Right.
when you see that much, it's like, okay, they don't. My thought is, they don't give a shit. When I hear, oh yeah, no, but no exceptions. It's like, they don't give a shit about the issue. They give a shit about the attention. They give a shit about their own image. But their concern isn't actually with the policy. It's with what they perceive as their status as a concern, as a moral person. It's not looking at the issue practically. It's
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly why when we try to help people, excuse them because they're afraid. There's a section of the public that's afraid to say out loud what they actually believe because they think it goes against their personal moral beliefs. And I think it makes it difficult for them. And so I just think that those polls also represent the amount of support for an amendment like this.
Kellen, final words?
Final words is the Democrats do have a real opportunity here to capitalize on the hardliner stances that a lot of Republicans have taken on social issues. Whether they do or don't, time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
If they do, this could be a new leaf going into 2026, aka the election that matters around here. As far as issues like this, Republicans have to do better on messaging this issue if they want things to go better for them. Again, time will tell if they do. I get the sneaking suspicion they won't. Polling is challenging. We won't know until we get to the one poll that matters, the election. If the messaging comes out the way it's supposed to, I agree with JD. I think this thing can pass, but it will require effort.
Right. JD, final word?
Well, it pretty much 100% agree. It's a long time down. This is a lifetime of political work between now and the election. And just the final rule of I just think there's a lot of people in Tallahassee that have lost sight of what the job is. They don't realize that job is called representative for a reason. It's not called go up there and vote for what you personally like and everything. Now, certainly that plays into some of the analysis. But and I know this is really kind of a dumb sounding analysis. But I like chocolate ice cream. For me to go up there and make that the only flavor allowed in the state of Florida is ludicrous. It's just bad public policy. And I know that oversimplifies like this issue, but it's kind of the same thing. If you ask me what my personal opinion, having daughters and granddaughters is one thing. And what I think is for our family and the support network that we can provide them. But there's a whole world of people out there that have different situations, and it's not good public policy to have this 6 week in that's just not.
Okay, thank you, JD. I think that the Democrats have a Herculean effort ahead of them. The Democrats and their allies to get the vote for abortion to be a constitutional amendment past the 60% threshold. It's going to be tough. I just don't see the resources that are coming to be used efficiently and in a timely fashion. My biggest overarching concern, again, is the threat to the privacy of the individual. I'm very concerned about the Supreme Court's ruling on the privacy clause in regards to this matter. I believe it opens up much more litigation in the future. Two of the Supreme Court justices who voted in favor of the ban, if I understood correctly, or did not vote in favor of the abortion ballot, are up for retention in November. So we may not see them after November, but knowing past history, no Supreme Court justice has been voted off the
That's
Supreme
right.
Court. This is an opportunity again for the Democrats and their allies to wage a much larger battle. Uh,
Have any judges around the state at any level not that's a heavy lift. I'm not sure that ever happened.
exactly. I don't think it has that. I think in my time here in the last 10 odd years, maybe once, but I have to do some research in regards to that. If any of our viewers or listeners have done their research and know the answer to that, please share with us. We will love to hear that.
And we always love to hear from you. Like, comment, share with others, any politicos, office holders, friends and family that you know. We want to have these conversations with all of you. Please bring some facts, not just your feelings. We want to make this a place of substance, a place of debate that matters. And we would want any one of you in the audience who's made it to the end of this video to be a part of that. Um, with that, this has been You Can't Make This Shit Up, and we are out.